So taking a look at this graph, the very first thing we need to do is draw in the midline. The midline, of course, is whatever we're shifting it up or down by. So in this case, we're going to put that dashed line up at 3. We then need to draw in our top and bottom lines. Now the top and bottom lines are affected by the amplitude. My amplitude here, it's whatever number is multiplied out front of cosine, but I'm going to give you a little detail here. In our definition of amplitude, we say that it is the distance from the midline to the top or the bottom of the graph. Can our distance be negative? It doesn't really make sense to say. How far away are you from Seattle? Negative 20 miles. Doesn't make sense, right? So distances are always positive. So in this case, I'd actually say my amplitude is 1 rather than saying the amplitude is negative 1. But that means that we're going to be putting our other lines, our top and our bottom, one above and one below my midline there. All right, from there, we just need to know where we put our first point. Now, this is where the negative is going to impact things a bit here. So cosine normally starts at the top. So this is where I'd normally be putting my first point. But I'm not going to here because the negative changes that. The negative tells me that instead of starting at the top, I'm going to start at the what? Bottom. Yep, starts at the bottom instead. And of course, once I know that, then you know the pattern from there. You know our pattern for cosine: top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom. Fill in the rest of the points doing that. Plot one point every 90 degrees. So as we go to the right, we plot each of those points according to that pattern. Now, sometimes people wonder, yeah, but how do I go to the left? Again, you still know the same pattern, and so I can still jump into the same pattern. Right now, I'm at the bottom, and so as I go to the left, I'm still going bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, following that exact same pattern that we know. It's just a matter of knowing where you're jumping into the pattern and then taking it from there. Now, of course, once we've plotted each of these points, then you can go ahead and draw your curve in. Now, when you draw in your curve, make sure that you are flattening out at the top and along the bottom when you draw those in. A few little hints. When I draw in my curve, you'll find that I actually draw in each of the curves that are going one direction, and then I'll go and I'll draw in the other ones. I find that a little bit easier for me. I don't try to do it all in one big swoop. I tend not to be very accurate that way, but that's me. But if you do one of these and you find that it doesn't quite look right, redo that part of it. And you'll find you get better and better and better at drawing these curves. But once you've drawn your curve, you're done. For this graph, in terms of a strategy for how to make it, the strategy is always the same about how I start these. Every single time I start by drawing in my midline. Where's the midline in this one? The midline is whatever is added or subtracted on the end. Because the midline changes only when I shift the graph up or down. There's nothing there. So the midline here is at 0. Now, I now need to go up and down to the top and bottom lines, right? That's the amplitude. What is the amplitude in this particular equation?
5.
Yep, it's 5. Because the amplitude is our vertical stretch, or in other words, whatever we multiply it by. So, multiplying by 5 means that I'm going to go up 5 from the midline, and I'm going to go down 5 from the midline, and that's my top and my bottom. Once you've drawn those in, well, we now need to figure out where our first point goes. The plus 180. Which way does plus 180 move it? Does that move it to the left, or does it move it to the right? Yep, it moves it to the left. And so that means my first point, instead of being at the top here at 0, it's going to be over to the left at negative 180. If you find it helpful to start by drawing in a dotted line over there at 180 or negative 180 to help yourself remember that, feel free to do so. But there's your first point. And then once we know that first point, You know everything because it's now just follow the pattern from there. And so in my pattern, I can see that my first point's at the top. Every 90 degrees, I then put another point, top, middle, top, middle, bottom, so forth. As I go to the right, same thing on the left. Follow the pattern as we go to the left. And then once you've made sure all those points are correct, go ahead and draw your curve in that goes through them. And so as you start working this one, yes, there's more transformations this time. But again, your process is the same. Still start by drawing your midline, then draw in the top and the bottom lines, and then locate your first point. So to find our midline, that's whatever is added or subtracted onto the end, so that's my plus 3. So I draw on the dashed line there up at 3. From there, I need to know how far up and down to go. Whatever is multiplied out front, remember that's my amplitude. So my amplitude here is 2. Now, some of you are thinking, what does that mean that I start up at 2? No. Remember that the amplitude is relative to the midline. So that's telling me that from that midline, I'm going to be going up 2, and I'm going to be going down 2 as well. That's how I get my top and my bottom. Once I know that, I just need to know where the first point goes. Because the first point for this one, it's not going to be up at the top at 0. It moves it. Now, which way does a minus 360 move it? Moves it to the right. And so this point, it's going to go all the way over here to 360. So there's your first point. And in this case, we can't go to the right from there, can we? But you can still follow the pattern going to the left.